The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, you'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
The South Holland series is sponsored by Gainsborough Cycles, 01427 617 752. For all your cycling needs, this is your one-stop shop located at 20 Ropery Road, Gainsborough, or online at gainsboroughcycles.com. There's a link in the description. Gainsborough Cycles, ask for Trevor Halstead. Welcome back to South Holland again, everybody, and we're continuing our journey south here towards the town of Spalding. Now, yesterday you saw Donington, which is not really a typical Fenland village. Well, for these next 3 episodes out here in this district, we are definitely in the Fens. There's plenty of driving around in these and not really a lot of walking. Behind me there, you can see there is a church, and this can be found in the hamlet of Church End in the parish of Quadring. Quadring, Muddy Goat Place. Continuing towards Spalding from Donington today, next we come to the parish of Quadring, one of only a handful of places in Lincolnshire that begin with the letter Q. Quadring itself is a small village, but the parish covers a number of other small hamlets, the largest of which are Quadring Udyke and Church End, the latter of which contains the parish church and the main school. Then there's Quadring Fen to the west and Gosberton Westgate right on the parish boundary to the south. At 2 miles in each direction, the main village is equidistant between Donington and Gosberton. The name Quadring is a complicated one. Despite having the prefix quad, it has nothing to do with the number 4. It was recorded in the Domesday Book as Quadhevering. It derives from the Old English words qued, heifer and ingus, which together form muddy settlement of heifer. Although the language boffins out there also reckon the end part is to do with goats. I like that idea personally, so I'm going with it. In terms of landmarks, Quadring lacks the sheer number that Donington possesses just up the road. That said, it can still boast an array of listed buildings, a village store and a post office, and it used to have 3 pubs, namely the Black Bull, the Red Cow and the White Hart. They all still stand, but a couple of them have different uses today. There used to be a butcher, a fishmonger, a blacksmith, a slaughterhouse and several pig farms here too, but they've now all disappeared. There'll be a lot of driving in this one. It's a pretty spread out parish, like most in South Holland. Let's go and see it. Quadring parish contains several small hamlets separate from the main village cluster. One of them is Church End to the north, and this is where we begin. Church End, as its name would suggest, contains the Grade 1 listed St Margaret of Antioch. A church has stood here for over 700 years, and there's an account in ancient Lincoln diocesan records of the induction of a vicar to Quadring in 1250. That's as far back as records can reach. In the Domesday Book, a large part of Quadring parish belonged to the Bishop of Lincoln, and he would have been obliged to provide for the religious needs of the people. Others involved in that were the Percy family. They bequeathed the church to the Abbess of Stainfield Priory, near Lincoln. As you enter this church, the first thing that might strike you is the light and spacious interior. Unfortunately, it was locked, so I couldn't see it. On the left of the door there's an ancient hood, not too dissimilar from the one in Donington. They were peculiar to the Fens because wet and misty days were, and still are, commonplace around here. At the entrance to the bell tower here stands a font with an ancient Latin inscription at the base that mentions the Percy family. It reads, "Pray for the soul of Robert Percy who caused this font to be made." The font was damaged in 1939 when lightning struck the tower and stonework fell on it. Speaking of the tower, it contains 6 bells. In the chancel, up in the roof, you may see the date 1698 plus 2 sets of initials, IP and NC. These are thought to be the church warden's initials at the time of a repair. On the pillars in the chancel are faces and heraldic coats of arms, possibly of the Derby family. In 1400, they gave the church 8 windows for the nave. Above the altar, the stained glass windows are brightly coloured and show Quadring Church, Lincoln Cathedral and Stonehaven, the home of the Robinson family, who gave the window along with 3 others on the right which depict the life of Christ. The organ was donated to the church by the Robinson family too. Next to the church is Quadring School, named Cowley and Browns. Once again, we see the Cowley name making an appearance in the Fens, and it's the same guy who we met yesterday who was behind this school, although this time he had some help. In 1718, Thomas Cowley left an endowment of 44 acres of land to the parish, and this was supplemented at a later period by a gift of 26 acres by Edward Brown. Hence the name, Cowley and Browns, came into existence. This isn't the original school building, nor is it the only school Quadring has ever had. In the main village cluster, one of the old school buildings still stands. Records from 1856 say that a free schoolhouse was granted to the Cowley charity by Edward Brown in 1739. It's unclear though if the building in Quadring village stood on the same site. Now we're heading eastwards away from Church End and into the hamlet of Quadring Udyke. It lies approximately 1 mile away from the A152 and features relatively little other than a couple of farms and a handful of houses. It's a typical Fenland hamlet in many respects. Quadring Udyke once contained a chapel which had disappeared by 1834. There is still a chapel building out here on Watergate. It's a United Free Methodist Church, which is fronted by a sign that says, rather damningly, "Welcome to the Chapel of Unrest." In 1885, Quadring Udyke's occupation listings included 10 farmers, 2 blacksmiths, and the landlord of a pub called the New Inn. By 1933, there were 7 farmers, one of whom was a cottage farmer and another a collector of crown taxes. There were also 6 smallholders, a fruit grower, and a beer seller. In all, Quadring Udyke seems to have been a busy little hamlet down the years, but now it's much more peaceful and serene. Isolated as it is away from the main road and the rest of Quadring Parish, it would make a decent little place to retire to in my opinion. Let's head back now and into Quadring itself to see what the main village has for us. Okay, here we are then in Quadring Village. You can see behind me there, this is our start point. It's a little playground, and when I say little, I mean little. That's probably one of the smallest playgrounds I've ever seen in my life. There's basically a swing and one of those seesaw type things, and that's basically it. I can't see anything much more than that. But to be fair, this isn't the biggest village in the world, so I suppose it doesn't need the biggest park ever, does it? It's within a big housing estate, which is going to be like our finishing point. All the main stuff here in Quadring Village is on the main road that goes through it, so let's head for that first. First up in the main village, we have one of the 3 pubs Quadring could once boast. This is the White Hart. Now, if I'd have done this village last year, the White Hart would have still been open. Unfortunately, it no longer is, after closing its doors in April 2024. At present, its long-term future is uncertain. When it was open, it was a friendly but small, low-beamed village pub, and it was very popular with the locals. One end was previously a small shop, and at the rear, the large attractive garden once housed a bakery. It served just the one real ale at a time, though this did occasionally change. The pub was always in excellent condition, but who knows what the future holds for this one. The future of this next building was decided a long time ago. This is the Curry Inn. It's an Indian restaurant today, but as the name suggests, it used to be something else. Indeed it was. This used to be the Red Cow pub, which closed in 2002. The building has always previously been a pub and dates back to 1760, when it was rebuilt on the site of an even older pub, originally called the Bell. It took the name Red Cow at the time of the rebuild, possibly to honour the Lincoln Red breed of cattle. This would make sense. The Red Cow was a regular meeting place for cattlemen on market days. The Soames Brewery owned the Red Cow until 1949, when it was sold to Stewart and Patterson. While we're on the subject of buildings that Quadring used to have, up until the mid-1990s, there was a water tower in this village. It was pulled down though in 1994. This is the Church Hall, or if you will, St Margaret's Hall, located on the main A152 through Quadring Village. As of August 2024, church services are taking place in this building as opposed to the church itself. Why though, I couldn't find out. This is the only communal venue the village has otherwise, so it's kind of like an all-encompassing church-cum-village hall capable of hosting anything and everything that goes on around here. What this building was in a previous life. There's a sign that says warning unsafe structure there. I mean, no flies on the person who wrote that, right? Because I certainly wouldn't want to set foot in that. Okay, so from this point we're going to turn around and we're heading back up the road again towards the Curry Inn. Next stop, the post office. At the crossroads where the road to Quadring Udyke meets the A152, we find the post office and general store. It's not known for sure how long this has been here, but it was definitely present by 1904, shown as it was on an OS map published at that time. Quadring has had a post office for a lot longer than that though. Records from the post office directory mention one in the village in 1868, which was run by John Butterfield. Mail used to arrive from Spalding at 6:15 AM before being dispatched an hour later around the village. It's unclear whether or not the post office was this or whether it was another elsewhere in the area. Incidentally, Quadring's third former pub, named the Black Bull, was located to the left of the post office at one time. It faced Fen Road, which used to be known as the Siding Road many years ago. Continuing north, here we have the Stonehaven residential home. Stonehaven is located within a converted and extended Victorian property, once home to the Robinson family. It was originally owned and managed by Marie Penfold, who passed away in 2015 after dedicating 25 years of her life into making Stonehaven the comfortable and caring home that it is today. It's now owned by her son, and the registered manager is his wife. Stonehaven has accommodation that's clean, tidy and well maintained, giving an excellent quality of life for its residents. That's all according to its website. If you ask me though, living anywhere in Quadring gives you an excellent life. I really do think this place is one of those sought after rural retreats that people look to retire to. I've said that already though, haven't I? You can draw your own conclusions maybe as we walk through a big residential area to complete the walk. Now once you get beyond the care home, it's all residential at this point. If I just show you where we are, we're on the A152 still, heading north. In a moment I'm going to be turning left into a big residential estate that sort of makes up the rest of Quadring, to be honest with you. There isn't really much more in terms of landmarks. So yeah, we're going to head this way. This runs to Donington, by the way, if you follow it all the way up towards that village, but we're not going that far of course. So it's a left turn in a couple of moments time and then through a big housing estate to finish with the village. That place looks spooky, doesn't it? I wonder if it's occupied. And we're almost back to the beginning here in Quadring village, but we are not done with this parish yet. It's time to hop in the car now and check out the rest of it. I'm talking primarily about Quadring Fen. Back in the car, our last job is to check out two further hamlets that fall within Quadring Parish. Both lie to the west of the main village. This here is Quadring Fen, which I've glued together with the smaller settlement of Quadring High Fen, if there's a difference between them. Both form part of the Lincolnshire Fens, which by now we know plenty about. It was an area of low-lying land prone to flooding prior to the major drainage works that were carried out between 1635 and 1638. A drainage channel, namely South 40-foot drain, runs through Quadring Fen, and there's a pump house situated at the end of South Drove. Pump assisted, it remains today the principal drainage channel for the Fens of eastern England and was first cut in the 17th century. Like its much larger parochial counterpart, Quadring Fen used to have a pub. Fun fact, by the way, between Quadring, Gosberton and Donington, there were once 13 of them, all open at the same time. The one here in the Fen was called the Old Plough Inn, and it was located on the corner of South Drove and Quadring Bank. The publican in 1919 was George Hempsel, and it was owned by the Solby, Son and Winch Brewery until 1951, when it was purchased by J.W. Green of Luton. That's exactly the same bit of ownership history as the Queen at Donington, by the way. It was closed for business on the 14th of May 1962 and subsequently converted for residential use. Lastly, we have Gosberton Westhorpe, which sits on the boundary between Quadring and Gosberton. This isn't much more than just a small cluster of houses, so we'll power on straight through this and over the parish boundary into the next one. Join me next weekend for a parish that's similar to this in many, many ways. It has a main village, but also several small hamlets, including two which are joined together, forming an almost secondary village, lining the banks of another important Fenland waterway. See you soon! Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.